Oh my god, guys, it's so freaking epic. I just hit the greatest jackpot of all time. If I could get my hair out of my face. I just finished doing the project that the video is about, and my whole family left. So I now have about an hour to improvise the voiceover because I have no time to do the script, and I'll just use some movie magic to cut out all of the parts where I'm thinking about what to say. Yeah, that is exactly the reason why I don't want to do a podcast ever, because I have to think a lot before I say anything. So, let's get to the point. The project we're making today, wow, I haven't done videos in so long. I don't even want to see when the last video was posted. Today, we are doing an alien, and it is now finishing curing, and I'm going to take some pictures for my Instagram. I'm going to take some pictures for Instagram and post them there, and you can check them out after you watch this video. The links are all in the description of the channel. So this alien started with, it's going to be a bit of like a backstory, but I want to take you with me in this endeavor. You know, this strand of hair is absolutely insane. It is sabotaging everything right now. Yesterday, me and my sister, we were doing one of these freaky science experiments, and it was basically like worms you could make out of some sort of like gelatin substance. You have two powders, you mix them with water, and then you add one to another, and it like hardens. And I took some very interesting pictures of them. I don't know what I'm going to use them for, but I do enjoy graphic design, so these may be suitable for some freaky posters. I like the word freaky, I'm sorry. I had some leftover fluid in my cup, and I poured the activation fluid into it, and it hardened, and I pull out this like skin made out of it, and like I immediately get like a vision in my head, and I'm like, I need to keep it. I need to keep it. So I put it onto a paper towel and I dried it for like overnight, and I woke up to basically like bacon. My sister called it bacon, and it does look like some sort of like jerky meat thing. Next, I decided to see if I could rehydrate it and like bend it a little bit, because for my idea I need to give it some sort of shape, because right now it was like interesting. You could use it as some sort of like feather or like butterfly insect type of like dried insect thing, but I needed to make a fleshy alien, so I really needed to see if I could rehydrate it, and I actually could. I succeeded, and I have quite a lot of these like science kits laying around in my house, because as a kid I was also really interested in doing experiments. I am now, but like as a kid I was very into science experiments. So I had a couple of petri dishes laying around, and I found one that was a nice size for it. I'm going to turn off the ominous evil UV light that is shining into my right eye, because it does seem like it is bad for you to look at UV light, you know? Which I did do today, but I don't want to expose myself to it anymore. Yeah, I have found a sketchbook, and by found I mean just took it from my table and stabilized the petri dish with its like lid open, because the alien is like escaping the petri dish. I have taken inspiration from like Carry On, one of my favorite games of all time, but it also kind of reminds me of that trailer of the movie, I think it was also called Alien or Life. It was the movie Life, which I did not see because I am scared of horror movies. I hate horror movies with a passion, and I don't watch them at all. I have stabilized the petri dish. I need to stabilize myself and lock in. Okay, I have found like a cap, not a cap, it's like an insert for an electric sharpener, and also a box with a single like paper clip thing. These were two small items that I did not need, and they were used for stabilizing because I thought that it was going to take like a long time to take shape and like dry and stuff, but turned out that I did it in like 3 hours. I think I spent 3 hours like sitting down and doing the project. And then I got to, what was I doing here? There's just like a whole bunch of videos where I do nothing. Also, I lost my attachment for my phone, for my camera stand for my phone, and so I just like taped my phone to the camera stand, and this is how I filmed the first half of the video. I have not filmed a video in like a year, and I'm getting punished for it, I guess. Next, I took my little sister's, I am terrorizing my little sister, but she deserved it. I took her knitting needles, that's what you call them, I guess, and I wanted to try my best and not touch the alien because it did stain the table and my fingers are still kind of stained, and I wanted to like spread it out and put some water onto it and wait for it to like relax, and so I could form this like thing, this like polymer skin, whatever. I'm doing a tutorial as if anybody's going to do it. It's like a very niche material that it's like very hard to get, but I guess you could like substitute it with liquid latex. This is kind of, it was kind of reminiscent of latex a little bit. Next, I carried it I carried it over to the petri dish, and you can see I just spray some water onto it to make it go soft and stick it to the petri dish as best I could. Then I took my X-Acto knife and cut up the alien and cut off some pieces and positioned them as if they were also trying to escape. Like in Carry On, I think, yeah, I don't actually remember if there was ability to split, but we do have actual animals that can like split, and some sort of like tapeworm, not tapeworm. It was some sort of like sea creature that you could like cut in half and it like regrows very quickly. It also was like really cute. I'm going to put pictures on the screen if I find them. And the name, probably, maybe, I don't know. Okay, so I cut up pieces of it and I was like blotting it with paper because it was very, very wet. It was very messy. my whole like table cover is stained red from this thing and I don't know what to do with it. Next, because I was like spraying it with water and picking up all of the color with my paper towel, I decided to resaturate with some watercolor, and it actually worked surprisingly well, but it is a water-based organism, a water-based polymer, I guess. I don't know what this material is called, to be honest, but it is the same thing that they use to make like popping bobas. It did absorb the colors quite well, so it was a success of resaturating it with colors. And also, I did not want to leave it very bright and red. I remembered Carry On and how like disgusting and kind of purplish it was. It was more of like blood colored. So I wanted to achieve a bloody color, and blood isn't red all the time. And I don't want to show it to you right now, but I'm looking at it and it looks like evil. Next, I also found like a tendril and I used a foil ball to like isolate it from the rest of the body so it doesn't stick when it dries. Next, I wanted to do veins. I was very inspired by this woman. If I find her profile, I'll put it here, but I hope I will because she's very inspiring and I really enjoy her content. She uses a lot of unconventional techniques to make fleshy things, and one of the life hacks I used was taking some cotton wool and dyeing it with whatever paint you have. And so I used watercolor because it was exactly what I had in hand at the time. I dyed the cotton with blue and purple to mimic veins, and it was a success. I was like tearing it apart with the knitting needles. Like when you're shredding chicken, you like tear it apart like this. And I was doing the same thing, and it formed very nice like strings and also some like webs, and it was like really fun to attach them to the organism. I don't know if I filmed it, but I made like a clump of veins to mimic like a brain, and it was just like very interesting to create the organism and come up with like lore, or like how it was, like the inner workings of it, how it all worked, like fake biology, you know. It was just like a very fun thing to do. Like during the vein attachment procedure, I was like on cloud nine basically. And yeah, here is footage of my stained fingers. So it was pretty bad, to be honest, but it wasn't the horrible food dye that was in the science kit that dyed the thing red. It was just like watercolor, so it was quite easy to wash off. Yeah, I left it to dry, I mean dry in the sun for a bit, because it was like very, very soggy, and it was also like sticking to my paper towel. So I just left it to dry for a bit, and I cleaned up my workstation, washed my hands and all that. Next, I also added some pigmentation. It is not really visible on the finished product, but it does add that extra layer of like, if you're really looking into it, it does add like a tiny bit of color variation that is very interesting. I basically mixed my UV resin with like a brownish pigment. I think it was just like iron oxide. I wanted to cover the whole thing in resin, but then I was like, no, it would look horrible. So I just put some spots onto the thing, and then I dried it with a UV light. The next part of the process I didn't really film. I decided to cover it in clear resin instead, because it needed some stability, because it was going to hold up the lid of the container of the petri dish, and I needed it to be very shiny. I wanted this like alien fleshy wet look to it. As you can see, here are some like drips that I made. One thing I did was put some resin onto the plastic thing that I was using. I don't know, I tried to remember its name, but it doesn't have a name. It's just like a plastic spoon to hold resin. And I held it under my UV light for like 10 seconds, and it thickened up, and I just like layered it onto the spots where I wanted the drips to be, and it worked nicely. I did not know the life hack I told you about since the beginning. It was a result of trial and error, and because of that I had some very just like round puddles of resin on the bottom of the dish, and I did not want to leave them like that, but they already hardened from the UV light hitting them, so I couldn't like smudge them or make them look like trails from these like appendages hitting the container. So I decided to cover the bottom of the container in resin fully, and it is quite a thick layer, which I don't recommend because like for me it is fine that it is warped and bubbly, but for people who want like a smooth surface, I would recommend epoxy resin, because UV resin does an exothermic reaction like all resins do, but it hardens in like a minute, so it starts boiling basically, and you do not want that. But I do kind of want that, and it does look cool. And now the most exciting part is that appendage that I left to dry, to die on the foil ball. I took the foil ball out of it when I was doing the resin, of course, and I paid close attention to like pouring resin onto the base of the appendage and like drying it quickly to secure it in place, because it was like drooping immediately, but I really wanted it to stick up, and I actually managed to preserve it in its shape. So I now was able to make it into some sort of interesting organ to add even more variation to the organism. I mixed up two pigments. One of them is like a UV reactive green one, which is like in this earring, so it is a little spoiler for you. And the other one was a glow-in-the-dark powder, and I mixed them together in quite a high concentration, but these like pigments that I have, they are relatively cheap, so they still didn't dye the resin as much as I thought they would, but like on camera it doesn't look as bright as it was. But it still kind of wasn't enough for me, but I just decided to go with it because I couldn't think of a way to make it more saturated because it was like half pigment at this point. So I thickened it under UV light for a bit, and from its behavior you can see how much pigment there was because normal UV resin doesn't behave like that. And the only reason I could think of why it like dried in this weird film on top is because it had so much pigment in it. So yeah, I dried it and I started like putting it in tiny drops onto the very tip of the appendage with a toothpick and immediately drying it. And I once even had to like hold it upside down over a UV light because the resin was starting to flow down and I did not want to do that. I wanted like an anglerfish type thing that this creature may be used as like bait or something. I don't know. I may have gone a bit overboard with the glowing spots. They may be like eyes because they're not as bright and they are like a bit smaller than the tip of the appendage, so they could be like eyes or I don't know, like mating ritual patterns on the creature. But the main thing is that I succeeded in my goal of making this like glowing anglerfish thing. And here it is in my hands. It looks so weird. Like if you hold it like this in my hand, it does look like carry-on, like a lot. Look at that. And here's what I was talking about. Like you can still see these like huge spots over here, which are kind of fun. I think maybe they are like these, the same as this appendage, but they are like folded into the creature and we can only see the glowing tips that it cannot hide. I don't know. My brain is like racing to come up with lore for this creature. If I inspired you, feel free to put your thoughts in the comments, like what do you think this creature is called, where is it from, like what environment it lives in, like what are its abilities, like what it eats or whatever, and like where it lives. Maybe it's like it does feel like it's either like a water creature or like a forest, like marsh creature, because it needs like a wet environment. That's what it looks like. It's like very slimy. Of course it's like it's hard resin, but it does look very slimy if you don't touch it. And also here's a nice detail that I didn't mention, the slimy drops on the on the lid. It's just like it's so fun to hold. And here are some veins. It is so fun. I'm going to like, I haven't done any pictures or videos of it in like a nicely lit environment, and I want to do some close-ups under the black light also. So yeah, that's it from me. I'm going to go and film some videos and take some photos of it, maybe under like a black light and in that box I mentioned, and I'm going to put some in the end of this video. But for now, I want to say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for waiting, because I have not posted in like a very long time. So yeah, that's kind of the vibe of this summer. I don't know, I've been really into aliens and like body modifications and stuff. That's what I was like researching lately. Yeah. Like, subscribe, whatever, have a nice day. I am trying to get back into my art stuff and get back into creating. So hopefully during summer I will give you some more interesting crafts and ideas and themes and videos and shorts. Yeah, I really have to go now. Okay, bye.